So what do you think your favourite social media?
Kind of bad, but probably TikTok. It's kind of an addiction. Yeah.
I feel I can't possibly use Snapchat because 40% of the world's terrorist traffic goes through Snapchat. So if I'm using that, I'm supporting international terrorism.
People sharing how good their lives are all the time. It's such a pressure then to keep up with what should be the perfect life.
It's like an ice cream factory, which is full of sweet, addictive things, and we all like to eat it. If you knew that it was made up of 5% raw sewage, would you be actually as interested in eating that ice cream as you are at the moment?
It's in the broad term, it's a platform where millions of people around the world can interact with each other.
They are the biggest organisations in the world, and they have their fingers in society, in commerce, business. So it's a dangerous tool.
And I think that they have strategic plans to influence the public or to manipulate the public, and people aren't aware that the developers are very close-knit with these influencers.
They're becoming more powerful than governments, are able to destabilise democracy. They're able to destabilise the economies if they want to. And I think the danger is that people like Mark Zuckerberg is more powerful than the President of the United States. And really, that's not a situation that can be allowed to continue. But that's what Mark Zuckerberg wants. He wants your data. It's the developers and the owners. They use the influencers to provide the content to hook people in. He's taking something from me if I use his products. And he's not giving me anything except free access to use tools.
Maya interview.
3, 2, 1, action.
Hi, I'm Katie and I'm 32.
Hello, my name is Maya and I'm 18.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel. I'm 18.
I'm Ellie and I'm 19 years old.
My name's Jake Elson and I'm in my early 30s.
Hi, I'm Steve Welsh. I'm an associate lecturer at college, and I'm in an older age bracket.
I think social media is a collective of online platforms.
I guess it's a platform to share your life, share things with other people.
In the broad term, it's a platform where millions of people around the world can interact with each other. But it's also become more of a way of advertising, I'd say, nowadays, with the way that influencers are picked up by bigger brands.
It's a more modern approach, maybe, to socialising.
The social media are a variety of platforms which engage people in an unreal kind of way. So it's not a physical meeting place, it's a virtual meeting place.
It's played a big part in how we develop, I'd say, mentally and our mentality around the world.
It's had maybe a little bit of a positive effect. For me and people in my generation, it's not been impactful in terms of an upbringing. It's not been all-encompassing from that point of view.
So my generation is interesting, right? I think we're obsessed with new things. We're obsessed with technology. And I think they absolutely love it because it's the new thing. And in a sense, I think it almost makes them feel as though they're younger because they're engaging with new technologies. But I do think it's part of the human condition to want to be involved with the next new thing. I think we're, as humans, very much about acquisition of new things.
Oh, so my social media, the things I see are generally mums sharing their children. It's mainly people sharing how good their lives are all the time. It's such a pressure then to keep up with what should be the perfect life.
I think that there's a huge negative strain from social media. I'd say pretty negatively. There's some positives that come with it, but a lot of body image issues come from social media, along with bullying, harassment, especially on apps like Twitter and stuff like that. So I'd say overall negatively.
It's kind of moved on from when I was a teenager, this body image thing, which is still a massive thing at this generation, but it is kind of snowballing into other things like families and family pressures and things like that.
It's quite bad, but probably 7 hours a day.
Probably around an hour to an hour and a half, I'd have thought.
About 7 or 8 hours.
Too much.
Too much. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Definitely probably between 6 to 8 hours.
It's my procrastination. It's what I do in between things I should be doing. Hours and hours and hours without even knowing.
Probably none, because I'm not actually on any social media platforms. I'm in a Facebook group, and it's purely for communication. But I would say that in a week, if I spent 15 minutes on Facebook, then that would be a lot. and that I'm not on any other platforms.
I think probably Instagram. I think some other social media like Facebook, you just guys get completely lost to adverts now.
Instagram, it's really accessible for me. It's mainly my friends, and then I follow influencers and things like that.
Kind of bad, but probably TikTok. It's kind of an addiction.
Yeah.
I'd say most of my time spent on social media is just Discord. Even if I'm using other social medias on top of that, I'm constantly on Discord, on call.
Well, I don't really have one, and I have certain moral objections to some of the platforms. For instance, I feel I can't possibly use Snapchat because 40% of world's terrorist traffic goes through Snapchat. So if I'm using that, I'm supporting international terrorism. Now, a lot of my friends are on it, and they say they don't care. But I have a feeling that within the next decades, we are going to have to make moral choices, because these companies who run things like Snapchat and Facebook, they're becoming more powerful than governments. They're becoming able to destabilize democracy. They're able to destabilize the economies if they want to. It's well known that Russia uses all sorts of social media platforms to infiltrate our democratic process, both here and in America. And that's now absolutely been shown to have happened. And so I think as individuals, the only way we're going to make changes to that is to become more moralistic in our choices and withdraw. So I think the Molly Russell case, which has been in the news again this week, actually made a profound change in our use personally of social media. 5 or 6 years ago, when she committed suicide, having been able to Google how to do it over and over again. And when Google promised to remove that content, and 6 months later it was still there, by which time more people of your age group had committed suicide using that information, I felt it was time to not use Google products as much as possible. And so we started a withdrawal from certain things at that point, started to produce our own ethical set of standards by which we didn't want to be involved with certain things. Now that makes life hard. For instance, I can't access the apps on Google Classroom if I'm using Safari. So Google want me to force me to use Google products. So that makes me even more not want to do it. So things like that also make me want to take an ethical stand against people like Google. Their products should be even-handedly available to everybody, not just to Google supporters.